Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Screen Theories. So, with the recent news released at CinemaCon this year that we are going to get a sequel officially, Matt Reeves' The Batman is going to get an official sequel. We thought we would explore what's going to happen in that sequel movie. Now, first up, we wanted to share our thoughts on the first Batman, and I absolutely loved the first Batman. I thought Matt Reeves' world was just so brilliant, and it really did capture everything from the comic books in terms of this detective version of the Batman, and was a lot more realistic as well, seeing the Batman character, seeing Bruce Wayne integrated into this world. And it was a much darker take on the Bruce Wayne character as well, as he wasn't the typical sleazy playboy character that we know Bruce Wayne to be, but instead he was more of a reclusive character. And as such, I just absolutely love the journey that they went on. But I know Toyo has some slightly different opinions on this one. So why don't you share what you thought of the Batman?
So I've just watched it yesterday, so it's really fresh in my mind. Only thing that I liked about the new Batman is the cinematography. Yeah. It's beautifully shot, especially, for example, Batman kisses Selina Kyle up on that tower. It's really beautiful. The background is so good, as well as cutting out the silhouette, outfits, etc. It's just so nice. As well as the other memorable one being where Penguin got chased down, the car flips, and he literally sees Batman upside down walking towards him. Yeah. It's so beautiful. Amazing. I mean, like, you're really, really into his point of view as to what he's seeing, the emotions that he's having inside him. He's just literally scared his pants off. I think that's the only thing that I really like about the film. In terms of pacing, it is slow because it is a 3-hour movie. In this film, there aren't as much fights or as many action scenes that I would have hoped, because with the Nolan trilogy, I was really accustomed to a lot of fights, some really, really intense music. There's no Hans Zimmer here, so you don't get that epicness. Instead, I think the whole world is built upon the comic book side. More of the comic book side is gritty. I still prefer Nolan's trilogy any day to this.
Yeah. Well, I guess for Nolan's trilogy, I guess it was more of an action movie with Batman in a bit of a superhero context. Whereas, like you're saying, this one is
like a Marvel film, but Batman.
Exactly. Whereas this time it's a lot more grittier. I quite liked it that it's a lot more comic book faithful, and you get to see all of the detective stuff. And I absolutely love the fact that they really twisted the Riddler character into being this really dark character that shared a history and a past with Bruce Wayne. I absolutely loved it. There's actually a novel that talks about their history a lot more, and it's just really, really intriguing. And the Nolan trilogy is absolutely incredible. I think is one of the best movies kind of ever made, especially The Dark Knight. That was just absolutely brilliant. Batman Begins was absolutely incredible. I feel like Dark Knight Rises wasn't as great as those two other movies were, but I'm kind of really excited about this new world that they're creating, the new Pattinson Batverse that they're creating. I feel like it could be really, really exciting. But let's talk about what could happen in the future. So we obviously got the Joker tease at the end of this movie. So definitely we are going to be seeing the Joker in the future. I personally don't think they're going to have the Joker in the second movie, as that would literally be exactly what Nolan did. So I think we are going to see the Joker character in the third movie. But I quite like the fact that they are really building the rogue gallery of villains in this whole world. So what do you think is going to happen with the Joker in the future of this series?
Given the success of the recent Joker movie, I think they'll want to push it. The studio will push it any day because it made over $1 billion. So it's a no-brainer. And also with Heath Ledger's Joker back in days having so much hype around the Batman movies, and as someone who grew up with the Batman games, the Arkham series, so the Joker character is a no-brainer to dump it in just to get some buzz or just to further develop the storyline, the roadmap. Batman Forever, that film had the Riddler and Two-Face. Two-Face was played by Tommy Lee Jones and Riddler was Jim Carrey. Yeah. So in this one, I think they're going to switch the characters up a bit. Two-Face character will be replaced by the Joker, and Joker will probably break the Riddler out because they're literally next door to each other. The director also mentioned that he's going to introduce Robin into the film. So I think it's a good opportunity because with more villains, you need more people, right?
I quite like the idea that you said there actually about the Riddler and the Joker teaming up, because actually they do that quite a lot in the animations and in the comics, but we haven't seen it happening in the movie space. I'm a little bit too minded about Barry Keoghan, as the other Joker actors, especially in Gotham, absolutely love the fact that we had a younger Joker being played in that movie. So I'm quite excited to see a younger Joker character in the Pattinson verse. But I'm just, like I said, I'm a little bit too minded about Barry Keoghan. But, you know, I'm sure he can win us all over and will do an absolutely killer performance. Yeah, it's an interesting point as to whether or not they're going to have the Joker in the second movie or the third movie. I think it would be cool to see him in the second movie. And you're right, if they do include him, absolutely home run that they'll get $1 billion in the box office. But like I said, I don't know. I don't know if they would do them in the second one or in the third one. But the Joker character is just so iconic and has just been played by so many brilliant actors. So, you know, the character just has so much potential. And I'm really intrigued about the fact that they're going to be doing something slightly different with the Joker. I absolutely love him in the comic books, especially when there are actually 3 different versions of the Joker. That's literally one of my favorite storylines. And I just can't wait to see what they're going to be doing with the Joker in the Pattinson verse. But let's talk more about Catwoman. So I'm similarly minded to you. I feel like they are definitely going to have Selena Kyle returning. But similarly, I don't think it would happen in the second movie. I feel like she's gone away. Maybe she can have her own spin-off so we can see what Selena Kyle's doing right now. And then maybe she will come back in the third movie or the fourth movie.
I've heard about them wanting to gain some spin-offs in production down the line. I'm getting a whip out, getting a few blokes down, and that's pretty much it. I want to see more of Catwoman doing her stuff, because back in days with Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, I remember her did so much. She even stitched up that suit herself. So it's quite memorable, especially the suit. So it'll be really cool to have a villain spin-off, see what went on when Maroni got caught and how he further expanded his empire.
I love that idea. I think it's very similar to the Sinister Six movie that they could be developing within the whole Sony Spider-Verse space. But having a spin-off that just focuses on the rise of the villains could be really, really cool.
And I think you're right. Of the Penguin.
Exactly, the rise of the Penguin. And I think you're right. With Selena Kyle, this movie purposefully was looking at her before she became Catwoman. So that's why, you know, her suit wasn't as slick as she could potentially have it in the future, which I'm really excited actually to have a true proper origin. I feel like this was a bit of a pre-origin. So then we can have a true origin storyline of Selena Kyle becoming Catwoman, which I think would be really, really wicked. And with the rise of all these villains, they obviously need to give a bit more heroes to Batman. So the first one obviously could potentially be Robin. So with Robin, I absolutely love Dick Grayson. I feel like Brenton Thwaites is just brilliantly playing him in the whole Titans live action series. That is absolutely wicked. I wish we could see that version of the character taking place in this world. Maybe they'll do something with the multiverse, but I just feel like Brenton Thwaites is just so fantastic as Robin, and then he is transforming and morphing into Nightwing, and I just absolutely love his character portrayal in that series. And I'm really wanting actually now to see Dick Grayson in this series. So do you think we'll be seeing Robin and Dick Grayson in this world?
I'm just not so sure, because it's such a different Batman compared to what we've seen in the past, whether it's Michael Keaton's Batman or Christian Bale's Batman. He's just so different, this Batman.
He is so different. And you're right, actually. I guess the true comic book version of Robin would be a kid. And it would be really interesting because they haven't really done that in live action yet, to get a really, really young kid to play Robin and to transform him into this absolute machine of a character. Because they've obviously had Chris O'Donnell playing Robin in the first Batman series. And then we kind of had that tease of Joseph Gordon-Levitt then becoming Robin. So I wonder if they go with a young guy this time, or if they go with a kid in the future. It'd be really interesting, because this Batman is just such a messed up character. So I feel like he is capable actually of getting someone really, really young.
Actually, you know that orphan he's been interacting a few times with?
Yeah.
That could be our Robin, right? So with the second movie, there could be a time jump for, let's say, I don't know, 5 or 7 years, because in this movie, Robert Pattinson has only been Batman for 2 years. So after a few years of experience, and also the kid growing up, that could be the Robin that we'll be getting.
That is such a good point. Yeah, maybe they put that scene in on purpose, as that is a bit of a tease of what's going to come up in the future. So that could be really, really interesting. Another villain that Matt Reeves has said that we could see in the second movie is Mr. Freeze, hilariously played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in Batman and Robin, for all the wrong reasons. I know, such a bad character, such a bad movie, especially with the Bane character, absolutely unforgivable. However, what I did really like with the Mr. Freeze character is, even though it was a really, really bad movie, I mean, it kind of is a bit of a guilty pleasure movie at the same time, isn't it? It's so bad, it's so good. But anyway, what I did like with the Mr. Freeze character is that even though he was doing all these awful barbaric things that was nearly going to destroy Gotham City, you could see why he was doing it, because he was just so broken from the death of his girlfriend and was trying so hard to make her come back to life. So, I did really like that emotional beat. And I also really like the emotional beat of the Alfred character potentially dying and, the impact of this on Bruce Wayne. So, I feel like the Mr. Freeze character has got potential, especially from an emotional sting point of view. So do you think we'll see Mr. Freeze, and do you think they'll do a similar storyline to what happened in Batman and Robin?
I think with Mr. Freeze's trajectory in terms of losing his loved one and implementing that and fuse it with the story, it'll be really, really good to see it on screen. And I think that's one thing I'll definitely be interested to see. They better bring back the Mr. Freeze ice hockey team.
Yeah. They were absolutely legendary. One of the things that I absolutely loved about this movie as well was Colin Farrell's Penguin character. I thought he was just absolutely phenomenal. First of all, you couldn't tell that it was Colin Farrell under all of those prosthetics. I feel like he transformed them, became the Penguin so brilliantly. And apparently they did originally want Robert De Niro. And I feel like, if anything, the Penguin looked a little bit more like Robert De Niro than it did Colin Farrell, which I thought was really, really interesting. But nonetheless, I absolutely love this character. Similarly to Selena Kyle, it kind of was the early bringing up of this character pre-transforming into Penguin, where you could see little bits and pieces of him shortly becoming this character. And I can't wait for the Penguin spin-off from a HBO Max point of view to really show the uprising of this character. I feel like he has the potential of being such a good mastermind and true super villain. So what do you think is going to happen with the Penguin in the future?
What they want to do is that this is the kind of frenemy that they'll be having. Robert Pattinson has already had a lot of interaction with Colin Farrell's Penguin. Yeah. So they know each other already.
I quite like the idea that you mentioned actually about the Penguin character being a bit of a frenemy. So sometimes he's a bit of a partner to Bruce Wayne and Batman, and then other times he's a bit of a villain. And then maybe when he's a villain, he kind of joins the Joker and the Riddler. And then that can kind of cause a lot of tension between these two characters who are somewhat friends and rivals, but then having him as a true enemy and kind of turning on the dark side, I feel like could be really, really intriguing. One character that I wasn't that impressed with in this movie was Alfred. And maybe it was because they didn't share that many scenes together. But I just feel like, this Alfred, I am intrigued and interested to see what they do with this slightly different take. Because all of the other Alfreds thus far have been true supports to Bruce Wayne. Whereas this time there's a bit of tension, there's a bit of conflict. So I am intrigued by it. And I think they have got potential to make the relationship really, really interesting. But it just didn't feel like they jumped to it as well as they could have done in this movie. But what were your thoughts on him?
He definitely helped out the Batman a lot in terms of deciphering the Riddler's riddles. Because of his military background, he kind of semi-trained the Batman as well. So it's kind of an interesting take upon this Alfred character. He doesn't have that much feeling towards someone that's really close to him. Bruce Wayne has only been Batman for 2 years. That's not a lot. He lacks the experience. He lacks some of the detective knowledge. He's smart, but he's not fully smart enough to be fully independent.
Yeah, for sure. This version of Bruce Wayne is definitely very emotionally challenged, for sure. And final character, and then we can talk about the Justice League and the DCEU, is Ra's al Ghul. So I really love the Ra's al Ghul character, especially from the comic books and the animations as well, as this character is so interesting. And he, kind of has a lot of history with Bruce Wayne from his past, where then in the future, he's a really dark character, especially his daughter, Talia al Ghul as well, which they did kind of tease in the third Batman movie, especially from Nolan trilogy point of view. But I'm just really hopeful that we get to see this character in his true comic book form, as he's just such a brilliant character. I guess the way in which they're creating this more emo, darker type of Bruce Wayne, maybe they're obviously going to change his history with Ra's al Ghul, but I'm really, really excited about this character, hopefully coming into the future. But what are your thoughts on Ra's al Ghul?
I've always loved the movies, but I've never been much of a fan for the Batman comics. So I'm not as invested in that character myself. But what I remember from the Batman Begins movie, he was the villain and he was okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Batman Begins, God, they completely changed Ra's al Ghul in that movie. And you can check out my review on Batman Begins, where you can hear all of my frustrations about what they did with Liam Neeson. I mean, like, Liam Neeson did a great job for the character that he was portraying, but I just feel like what they did with Ra's al Ghul was a little bit unforgivable, as it wasn't true comic books accurate. But anyway, let's talk about the DCEU and Justice League. So obviously we have a brand new boss in Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, who is going to be changing up a lot of things as he really does want to follow the blueprint of the MCU and really have a lot more integrated storylines. He did say that he does want to kind of keep some multiverse aspects, so for example, the Joker being truly separate and kind of telling origin storylines of a secondary character. But I'm really interested actually as to whether or not they're going to bring in the wider DCEU characters into this world, or if they're going to bring in other superheroes within the Pattinson verse. If you check out the prequel, pre to the Batman, then they did explore the fact that actually there is Metropolis in this world. So, the Superman could potentially exist in this space. But at the same time, I am thinking that they are going to keep this one separate and just focus it purely on the Batman world instead of kind of bringing in all of these other superheroes. But what are your thoughts? Do you reckon they're going to be incentivized to bring in the other superheroes within this universe?
We don't get a lot of Kevin Feige's. Kevin Feige, there can be only one Kevin Feige, right? Yeah. Because he worked his way up, right? I don't see a lot of people having the competence and skill level as Kevin Feige, who knows the bigger picture, who knows how to refresh and bring fresh content to audiences. But in terms of DCEU, how can they do something like that?
As you said, there's only one Kevin Feige, but they can try to mirror everything that he's done, I guess, as best as they can do. It'd be really interesting to see, I feel like, how the next few projects will perform. As far as the TV is concerned for the DC space, they're cancelling pretty much all of the CW shows. Batwoman just got cancelled. Legends of Tomorrow just got cancelled. The Flash may be on its way out. Superman and Lois may be on its way out as well. It'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with Titans, Doom Patrol, etc. I feel like they're really closing some of the DC spaces, and I feel like they're going to monitor how the rest of the movies are going to go, and then maybe they're going to decide if they're just going to close the current DCEU, I feel, and then just focus it purely on this Pattinson world. So it'd be really interesting, I feel, what they're going to be doing in the future. But that's it for this episode. Now, I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the DCEU? What do you think is going to happen in the second Batman movie? Let us know in the comment section below, and we look forward to seeing you in another Screen Theories video very, very soon.